Chapter 10. I'm just warning you guys, this is a long one. Probably just as long as Chapter 7, if not longer. But a lot happens. It's pretty interesting, so. I don't know. We'll see how long it is. I think it's going to be close to an hour, though. Sorry. I have a lot of reading this week, but an hour and a half, and you only have a few questions. Alright, ready? We've dropped in for a good job. 8 of us have to guard a village that has been abandoned because it's being shelled too heavily. So remember, he makes it, Paul is just kind of staring into no man's land. In a trench, he makes it back to his own trenches. Now they're on the move again. In particular, we have not had to watch the supply dump, as that is not empty yet. We are supposed to provision ourselves from that same store. We are just the right people for that. Cat, Albert, Mueller, Tiana, and Dittering. Our whole gang is there. He's dead, though. We are mighty lucky all the same. All the other squads have had more casualties than we have. We select, as a dugout, a reinforced concrete cellar into which steps lead down from above. The entrance is protected by a separate concrete wall. Now we develop an immense industry. This is not an opportunity, not only to stretch one's legs, but to stretch one's soul also. Make the best use of such opportunities. The war is too desperate to allow us to be sentimental for long. It is only possible so long as things are not going too badly. After all, we cannot afford to be anything that matter of fact. So matter of fact, indeed, that I often shudder when a thought from the days before the war comes momentarily into my head, but it does not stay long. We have to take things as lightly as we can, so we make the most out of every opportunity, and nonsense stands stark and immediate beside horror. It cannot be otherwise. That is how we hearten ourselves. So we zealously set to work to create an idyll of eating and sleeping, of course. Idyll, sorry, not idyll. I don't know why I said that. The floor is first covered with the mattresses, which we haul in from the houses. Even the soldiers behind likes to sit soft. Only in the middle of the floor is there any clear space. And we furnish ourselves with blankets and eider-downs, luxurious soft affairs. There's plenty of everything to be had in the village. Albert and I find a mahogany bed which can be taken to pieces, with a sky of blue silk and a lace coverlet. We sweat like monkeys moving it in, but a man cannot let a thing like that slip. It would certainly be shot to pieces in a day or two. So we come across this abandoned village. They're taking shelter in this cellar, this basement that they found. And they're going through people's old houses and literally just taking things and making kind of like a camp in the cellar. So they found a bed. They're going to take some beds so they can have somewhere nice and comfy to sleep on. So they haven't really slept in bed since they've been on leave, right? Kat and I do a little patrolling through the houses. In a very short time, we've collected a dozen eggs and 2 pounds of fairly fresh butter. Suddenly, there's a crash in the drawing room, and an iron stove hurtles through the wall past us and on, a yard from us out through the wall behind. 2 holes. It comes from the house opposite where a shell has just landed. The swine, grimaces Kat, and we continue our search. All at once, we prick up our ears, hurry across, and suddenly stand petrified. There, running up and down on the side, are 2 live, sucking pigs. We rub our eyes and look once again to make certain. Yes, they are still there. We seize hold of them, no doubt about it. 2 real young pigs. Let's make a grand feed. About 20 yards from our dugout, there is a small house that was used as an officer's billet. In the kitchen is an immense fireplace with 2 ranges, pots, pans, and kettles, everything, even to a stack of small chopped wood in an outhouse. A regular cook's paradise. 2 of our fellows have been out in the fields all the morning hunting for potatoes, carrots, and green peas. We are quite uppish and sniff at the tin stuff at the supply dump. We want fresh vegetables. In the dining room, there are already 2 heads of cauliflower. The sucking pigs are slaughtered. Kat sees to them. We want to make potato cakes to go with the roast, but we cannot find a grater for the potatoes. However, the difficulty soon got over. With a nail, we punch a lot of holes in the pot lid, and there we have a grater. 3 fellows put on thick gloves to protect their fingers against the grater. 2 others peel the potatoes, and the business gets going. Kat takes charge of the sucking pigs, the carrots, the peas, and the cauliflower. He even mixes the white sauce with the cauliflower. I fry the pancakes 4 at a time. After 10 minutes, I get the knack of tossing the pan so that the pancakes, which are done on one side, sail up, turn in the air, and are caught again as they come down. The sucking pigs are roasted whole. We all stand around them as before an altar. In the meantime, we receive visitors, a couple of wireless men who are generously invited to the feed. They sit in the living room where there is a piano. One of them plays, the other sings an air de Weiser, some German song. He sings feelingly, but with a rather Saxon accent. All the same, it moves us as we stand at the fireplace preparing the good things. Then we begin to realize we are in for trouble. The observation balloons have spotted the smoke from our chimney, and the shells start to drop on us. They are those damn spring little daisy cutters that make only a small hole and scatter widely close to the ground. They keep dropping closer and closer all around us. Still, we cannot leave the grub in the lurch. A couple of the splinters whisk to the top of the kitchen window. The roast is ready. The frying the pancakes is getting difficult. The explosions come so fast that the splinters strike again and again against the wall of the house and sweep in through the window. Never hear a shell coming, I drop down on one knee with the pan and the pancakes and duck behind the wall of a window. Immediately afterwards, I'm up again and going on with the frying. So they're literally in this house, gathering together a feast. So they found, Kat and Paul found 2 pigs and a pen outside. They grabbed the pigs, they killed them, They're roasting them. The other men found some vegetables somewhere around in other people's gardens on the outskirts of the village. As they're doing this, the observation balloons see the smoke coming out of the chimney, and they're dropping bombs, essentially, trying to nail these guys as they're doing it. But, like, they're kind of, like, not even worried about that. They just want to get this feast done. So they're trying to cook really fast and take the feast to their basement where they can eat it in peace. Saxon starts singing. A fragment has smashed the piano. At last, everything is ready, and we organize the transport of it back to the dugout, to the basement. After the next explosion, 2 men dash across the 50 yards to the dugout with the pots of vegetables. We see them disappear. The next shot. Everyone ducks, and then 2 more trot off, each with a big can of finest grade coffee, and reach the dugout before the next explosion. Then Cat and Crop sees a masterpiece. The big dish with the brown, roasted sucking pig. A screech, a knee bend, and away they race over the 50 yards of open country. I say to finish my last 4 pancakes. Twice I have to drop to the floor. After all, it means 4 pancakes more, and they are my favorite dish. And I grab the plate with the great pile of cakes and squeeze myself behind the house door. A hiss, a crash, and I gallop off with the plate clamped against my chest with both hands. I'm almost in. There is a rising screech. I bound, I run like a deer, sweep around the wall. Fragments clatter against the concrete. I tumble down to the cellar steps. My elbows are skinned, but I have not lost a single pancake or even upset the plate. At 2 o'clock, we start the meal. It lasts till 6. We drink coffee until 6:30. Officers' coffee from the supply dump, and smoke officers' cigars and cigarettes, also from the supply dump. Punctually at 6:30, we begin supper. So the supply dump is what they're supposed to be guarding, so it's the supplies going to and from the front. They're supposed to be guarding it, but they also have like full access to it, essentially. Punctually at 6:30, we begin supper. At 10 o'clock, we put the bones of the sucking pigs outside the door. Then there's cognac and rum, also from the blessed supply dump, and once again, long fat cigars with belly bands. Tiaden says it lacks only one thing: girls from an officer's brothel. Later in the evening, we hear meowing. A little gray cat sits in the entrance. We entice it in and give it something to eat, and that wakes up our own appetites once more. Still chewing, we lie down to sleep. For the night is bad. We've eaten too much fat. A fresh baby pig is very gripping to the bowels. There is an everlasting coming and going in the dugout. 2, 3 men with their pants down are always sitting outside and cursing. I've been out 9 times myself. About 4 o'clock in the morning, we reach a record. All 11 men, guards, and visitors are squatting outside. Burning houses stand out like torches against the night. Shells lumber across and crash down. Munition columns tear along the street. On one side, the supply dump has been ripped open. In spite of it all, the flying fragments, the drivers of the munition columns pour in like a swarm of bees and pounce on their bread. We let them have their own way. If we said anything, it would only mean a good hiding for us. So we go differently about it. We explain that we are the guard and so know our way about. We get a hold of the tin stuff and exchange it for things we are short of. But it doesn't matter anyhow. In a little while, all will be blown to pieces. For ourselves, we take some chocolate from the depot and eat it in slabs. Cat says it's good for loose bowels. Almost a fortnight passes, almost 2 weeks passes, thus in eating, drinking, and roaming about. No one disturbs us. The village gradually vanishes under the shells. We lead a charmed life. As long as any part of the supply dump still stands, we don't worry. We desire nothing better than to stay here till the end of the war. John has become so fastidious that he only half smokes his cigars. With his nose in the air, he explains to us that he was brought up that way. The cat is most cheerful. In the morning, his first call is, "Hey, Mel, bring in the cabaret and coffee." Put on extraordinary airs, every man treats the other as his valet, balances him and gives him orders. "There's something itching under my foot. Crop, my man, catch that louse at once," says Lear, poking out his leg on him like a ballet girl. And Albert drives him up the stairs with his foot. "Tiaden, what? Stand at ease, Tiaden. And what's more, don't say what. Say yes, sir. Now, Tiaden." Tiaden retorts in the well-known phrase from Gottsven Berlichkin, which is always free. After 8, so they're kind of living like kings here, right? I mean, they get to eat as much as they want, whenever they want. They have, access to these houses, these villages. They're kind of safe, right, at this point. That's like, kind of like playing it up. After 8 more days, we receive orders to go back. The palmy days are over. 2 big motor lorries take us away. They are stacked high with planks. Nevertheless, Albert and I erect on top a 4-poster bed complete with blue silk, canopy, mattress, and 2 lace coverlets. Behind it, at the head, is sewed a bag full of the choicest edibles. We often dip into it, and the tough ham sausages, the tins of liver sausages, the conserves, the boxes of cigarettes rejoice our hearts. Each man has a bag to himself. Crop and I have rescued 2 big red armchairs as well. They stand inside the bed, and we sprawl back in them as in a theater box. Above us swells the silken cover like a balcony. Each man has a long cigar in his mouth, and thus from aloft we survey the scene. Between us stands a parrot cage that we found for the cat. She's coming with us and lies in the cage before her soft for her meat and purrs. Slowly the lorries roll down the road. We sing. Behind us, shells are sending up fountains from the now utterly abandoned village. A few days later, we are sent to evacuate a village, so a different one. On the way, we meet the fleeting inhabitants, trolling their goods and chattels along with them in wheelbarrows and perambulator and on their backs. Their figures are bent, their faces full of grief, despair, haste, and resignation. The children hold on to their mother's hands, and often an older girl leads the little ones who stumble onward and are forever looking back. A few carry miserable-looking dolls. All are silent as they pass us by. We are marching in column. The French certainly will not fire on a town in which there are still inhabitants. But a few minutes later, the air screams, the earth heaves, cries ring out. A shell is landed among our weird squad. We scatter and fling ourselves down on the ground, but at that moment I feel the instinctive alertness leave me, which hitherto has always made me unconsciously the right thing under fire. The thought leaps up with a terrible throttling fear. You are lost. The next moment a blow sweeps like a whip over my left leg. I hear Albert cry out. He is beside me. Quick, up, Albert, I yell, for we are lying unsheltered in the open field. He staggers up and runs. I keep beside him. We have to get over a hedge. It is higher than we are. Crop seizes a branch. I heave him by the leg. He cries out. I give him a swing and he flies over. With one bound I follow him and fall into a ditch that lies behind the hedge. Our faces are smothered with duckweed and mud, but the cover is good, so we wade up into our necks. Whenever a shell whistles, we duck our heads under the water. After we have done this a dozen times, I am exhausted. Let's get away or I'll fall in and drown, groans Albert. Where has it got you? I asked him. In the knee, I think. Can you run? I think. Then out. So they're evacuating this village. They're escorting. Why can't I say this word? Escorting. Sorry. Oh my God. Escorting the people out of the village to somewhere else. Either it's hostages or because they're taking over the village and they want to kill innocent civilians. As they're doing so, they're getting bombed. So they kind of ditch that effort. Albert and Paul both get hit by some shrapnel. And now they're trying to find cover. Okay. We make for the ditch beside the road and stooping and run along it. The shelling follows us. The road leads towards the munition dump. If that goes up there won't be so much as a bootlace left of us. So we change our plan and run diagonally across country. Albert begins to drag. You go. I'll come down after, he says, and throws himself down. I seize him by the arm and shake him. Up, Albert. If once you lie down, you'll never get any further. Quick, I'll hold you up. At last we reach a small dugout. Crop pitches in and I bandage him up. The shot is just a little above his knee. Then I take a look at myself. My trousers are bloody and my arm too. Albert binds up my wound with his field dressing. Already he is no longer able to move his leg. We both wonder how he managed to get this far. Fear alone made it possible. We should have run even if our feet had been shut off. We'd have run on the stumps. I can still crawl a little. I call out to a passing ambulance wagon which picks us up. It is full of wounded. There's an Army medical lance corporal with it who sticks an anti-tetanus needle into our chests. At the dressing station, we arrange matters so that we lie side by side. They give us a thin soup, which we spoon down greedily and scornfully because we are accustomed to better times, but are hungry all the same. Now for home, Albert, I say. Let's hope so, he replies. I only wish I knew what I've got. The pain increases. The bandages burn like fire. We drink and drink, one glass of water after another. How far above the knee am I hit? Asks Crop. At least 4 inches, Albert, I answer. Actually, it's perhaps 1. I've made up my mind, he says after a while. If they take off my leg, I'll put an end to it. I won't go through life as a cripple. So we lie there with our thoughts and wait. They both got injured, and they both had to get transported to an Army hospital. In the evening, we are hauled onto the chopping block. I am frightened and think quickly what I ought to do, for everyone knows that the surgeons in the dressing stations amputate on the slightest provocation. Under the great business that is much simpler than complicated patching, I think of hemorrhage. Whatever happens, I will not let them chloroform me, even if I have to crack a couple of their skulls. Chloroform is what they do when they knock you out. They kind of like put it up to your face and you inhale it and you pass out so they can do surgery. And Paul doesn't trust these hospitals because instead of doing good, right, they're doing a lot more harm. They'll amputate without really any reason. They'll just do it and then move on to the next person because there's so many soldiers. It is all right. The surgeon pokes around in the wound and a blackness comes before my eyes. Don't carry on, so he says gruffly and hacks away. The instruments gleam in the bright light like marvelous animals. The pain is insufferable. 2 orderlies hold my arms fast, but I break loose with one of them. I try to crash into the surgeon's spectacles just as he notices and springs back. Chloroform, a scoundrel, he roars madly. Then I become quiet. Pardon me, Herr Doctor, but I will keep still. But do not chloroform me. Well, now he cackles and takes up his instruments again. He's a fair fellow, not more than 30 years old, with scars and disgusting gold spectacles. Now I see that he is tormenting me. He is merely raking about in the wound and looking up surreptitiously at me over his glasses. My hands squeeze around the grips. I'll kick the bucket before he will get a squeak out of me. He has fished out a piece of shell and tosses it to me. Apparently he's pleased at my self-control, for he now sits my leg carefully and splints and says, "Tomorrow you'll be off home." And I put it in plaster. And I am back again. With Crop, I tell him apparently a hospital train comes in tomorrow morning. We must work the Army Medical Sergeant Major so we can keep together, Albert. I managed to slip the Sergeant Major 2 of my cigars with belly bands and then tip the word to him. He smells the cigars and says, "Have you got any more of them?" "Another good handful," I say, and my comrade, I point to Crop. He has some as well. I might possibly be glad to hand them to you out of the window of the hospital train in the morning. He understands, of course, smells them once again, and says, "Done." We do not get a minute's sleep all night. One of them sings hymns in the high cracked tenor before he begins to gurgle. Another has crept out of his bed to the window. He lies in front of it as though he wants to look out for the last time. So now they're getting transported to another hospital to get better help. So the surgeon has, dug around in Paul's arm and pulled out the bullet wound. Sorry. Thank you. Pulled out the bullet hole. He patched him up a little bit. Now they have to go recover in another hospital. And they want to stay together, so Paul has to bribe the guy running the railways so they can stay together. I stretchers stand on the platform. We wait for the train. It rains. The station has no roof. Our blankets are thin. We have waited already 2 hours. The Sergeant Major looks after us like a mother. Although I feel pretty bad, I do not let her scheme out of my mind. Casually, I let him see the packet and give him 1 cigar in advance. In exchange, the Sergeant Major covers us over with a waterproof sheet. "Albert, old man," I suddenly bethink myself. "Our fur poster and the cat. And the club chairs," he adds. Yes, the club chairs with red plush. In the evenings we used to sit on them like lords and intended later on to let them out by the hour. 1 cigarette per hour. It might have turned into a regular business, a real good living. Our bags of grub, too, Albert. We grow melancholy. We might have made some use of the things. If only the train left 1 day later, Cat would be sure to find us and bring us the stuff. But damned hard luck. In our bellies there's gruel, hospital stuff. In our bags roast pork. We are so weak that we cannot work up any more excitement about it. The stretchers are sopping wet by the time the train arrives in the morning. The Sergeant Major sees to it that we are put in the same car. There is a crowd of Red Cross nurses. Crop is stowed in below. I am lifted up and told to get into the bed above him. "Good God," I exclaim suddenly. "What is it?" asks the sister. I cast a glance at the bed. It's covered with clean, snow-white linen that even has got the marks of the iron still on it. And my shirt has gone 6 weeks without being washed and is terribly muddy. "Can't you get in by yourself?" asks the sister gently. "Why, yes," I say in a sweat, "but take off the bed cover first." "What for?" "I feel like a pig. Must I get in there?" "It will get," I hesitate, "a little bit dirty," she suggests helpfully. "It doesn't matter. We'll wash it again afterwards." No, not that," I say excitedly. I'm not equal to such overwhelming refinement. "When you have been lying out there in the trenches, surely we can wash a sheet," she goes on. I look at her. She is young and crisp, spotless and neat, like everything here. A man cannot realize that it isn't for officers only, and feels himself strange and in some way even alarmed. All the same, the woman is a tormentor. She is going to force me to say it. It is only... I try again. Surely she must know what I mean. What is it then? "Because of the lice," I bawl out at last. She laughs. Well, they must have a good day for once, too. Now I don't care anymore. I scramble into bed and pull up the covers. A hand gropes over the bed cover. The Sergeant Major. He goes off with the cigars. An hour later, we notice we are moving. I wake up during the night. Crop is restless, too. The train rides easily over the rails. I could not realize it all yet. A bed, a train, home. "Albert," I whisper. "Yes?" "Do you know where the latrine is?" "The door is on the right, I think." I'm going to have a look. It is dark. I grope for the edge of the bed and cautiously try to slide down. My foot finds no support. I begin to slip. The plaster leg is no help, and with a crash I lie on the floor. "Damn," I say. "Have you bumped yourself?" asks Crop. "You could hear that well enough for yourself," I growl. "My head." The door opens at the rear of the car. The sister comes in with a light and looks at me. It's fallen out of the bed. She feels my pulse and smooths my forehead. "You haven't any fever, though." "No," I agree. "Have you been dreaming, then?" she asks. "Perhaps," I evade. The interrogation starts again. She looks at me with her clear eyes, and the more wonderful and sweet she is, the less I am able to tell her what I want. I am lifted up into bed again. That will be all right. As soon as she goes, I must try to climb down again. If she were an old woman, it might be easier to say what a man wants, but she is so very young, at the most 25. Can't be done. I cannot possibly tell her. And Albert comes to my rescue. He is not bashful. It makes no difference to him who is upset. He calls to the sister. She turns around. "Sister, he wants." But no more does Albert know how to express it modestly and decently. Out there we all say it in a single word, but here to such a lady. All at once he remembers his school days and finishes hastily. He wants to leave the room, sister. "Ah," says the sister. "But he shouldn't climb out of his bed with his plaster bandage. What do you want, then?" she says, turning to me. I'm in mortal terror at this turn, for I haven't any idea what the things are called professionally. She comes to my help. "Little or big?" Shocking business. I spit like a pig and say shyly, well, only quite a little one. At any rate, it produces the effect. I get a bottle. After a few hours, I am no longer the only one, and by morning we are quite accustomed to it and ask for what we want without any false modesty. So, right, even it's different, right? Because now Paul, he's been in the army for so long. He says things like he's kind of being integrated back into a little bit of a normal life or a little bit of normal social conventions where he has to be a little bit polite. He's talking to women and their nurses. He's trying to go to the bathroom and he can't, right? He's like crawled out of bed. He literally collapses on the ground because one of his legs is broken and covered in plaster, so like a cast. He can't support his weight, so he like collapses on the ground. And the nun comes in and asks him, what's up? And he can't. He doesn't know how to say, I have to go to the bathroom. Because he feels embarrassed and ashamed of it and doesn't know how to be polite about it. But the nurse, she's pretty cool, right? She's like, okay, little or big, like, I got you. Like, here we go. Let's figure it out. And once that initial encounter is over, Paul doesn't feel really shy about asking for what he needs anymore. The train travels slowly. Sometimes it halts and the dead are unloaded. It halts often. Albert is feverish. I don't feel too bad. I have some pain, but the worst of it is that apparently there are still lice under the plaster bandage. They itch terribly and I cannot scratch myself. We sleep through the days. The country glides quietly past the window. The third night we reach Herbestal. I hear from the sister that Albert is to be put off at the next station because of his fever. How far does the train go, I asked. To Cologne. Albert, I say, we stick together, you see. My sister's next round, I hold my breath and press it right up into my head. My face swells and turns red. She stops. Are you in pain? Yes, I groan all of a sudden. She gives me a thermometer and goes on. I would not have been under Kat's tuition if I did not know what to do now. These army thermometers are not made for old soldiers. All one has to do is drive the quicksilver up and then it stays without falling again. I stick the thermometer under my arm at a slant and flip it steadily with my forefinger. Then I give it a shake. I set it up to 100.2 degrees, but that is not enough. A match held cautiously near it brings it up to 106. As the sister comes back, I blow myself out, breathe in short gasps, goggle at her with vacant eyes, toss about restlessly and mutter in a whisper, I can't bear it any longer. She notes me on a slip of paper. I know perfectly well my plaster bandage will not be reopened if it can be avoided. Albert and I are put off together. We're in the same room in a Catholic hospital. Okay, so Paul just kind of faked a fever so that when Albert gets off at the train, Paul gets off also, because Paul was actually well enough to keep going. But he wants to stick with Albert and kind of see through with him, so he decides to fake a fever. We were stuck in the same room in a Catholic hospital. That is a piece of luck. The Catholic infirmaries are noted for their good treatment and good food. The hospital has been filled up from our train, and there are a great many bed cases among them. We did not get examined today because there are too few surgeons. The flat trolleys with the rubber wheels pass continually along the corridor, and always with someone stretched at full length upon them. A damnable position, stretched out full length like that. The only time it is good is when one is asleep. The night is very disturbed. No one can sleep. Towards morning we doze a little. I wake up just as it grows light. The doors stand open and I hear voices from the corridor. The others wake up too. One fellow who has been there a couple of days already explains it to us. Up here in the corridor every morning the sisters say prayers. They call it morning devotion. So that you can get your share, they leave the door open. So they're praying, right? No doubt it is meant well, but it gives us aches in our heads and bones. Such an absurdity, I say, just when a man dropped off to sleep. All the light cases are up here, that's why they do it here, he replies. Albert groans. I get furious and call out, be quiet out there. A minute later, his sister appears. So they're nuns, right? So the nuns run this hospital, they're Catholic nuns. And they say their prayers every morning, and they open the doors so that the soldiers can also hear their prayers. And the soldiers are hate it because they're like, we're just trying to sleep. A minute later, a sister appears. In her black and white dress, she looks like a beautiful tea cozy. Shut the door, will you, sister? Someone says. We're saying prayers. That is why the door is open, she responds. But we want to go on sleeping. Prayer is better than sleeping. She stands there and smiles innocently. And it's 7 o'clock already. Albert groans again. Shut the door, I snort. She's quite disconcerted. Apparently, she cannot understand. We are saying prayers for you, too. Shut the door anyway. She disappears, leaving the door open. The intoning of the litany proceeds. I feel savage and say, I'm going to count up to 3. If she doesn't stop before, then I'll let something fly. Me too, says another. I count up to 5. I take hold of a bottle, aim, and heave it through the door into the corridor. It smashes into 1,000 pieces. The praying stops. A swarm of sisters appear and approach us in concert. Shut the door, we yell. They withdraw. The little one who came first is the last to go. Heathen, she chirps, but shuts the door all the same. We have won. At noon, the hospital inspector arrives and abuses us. He threatens us with clank and all the rest of it. But a hospital inspector is just the same as a commissary inspector, or anyone else who wears a long sword and soldier straps, but is really a clerk and is never considered even by a recruit as a real officer. So we let him talk. What could they do to us anyway? Who threw the bottle? He asks. Before I can think whether I should report myself, someone says, I did. A man with a bristling beard sits up. Everyone is excited. Why should he report himself? You? Yes, I was annoyed because when we were out, waked unnecessarily and lost my senses so that I did not know what I was doing. He talks like a book. What is your name? Reinforcement Reservist Joseph Haymaker. The inspector departs. We're all curious. Why did you say you did it? It wasn't you at all. He grins. That doesn't matter. I have a shooting license. And of course we all understand. Whoever has a shooting license can do just whatever he pleases. Yes, he explains, I got a crack in the head and they presented me with a certificate to say that I was periodically not responsible for my actions. Ever since then I've had a grand time. No one dares to annoy me. No one does anything to me. I report myself because the shot amused me. If we open the door again tomorrow, we will pitch one another. We are overjoyed. With Joseph Haymaker in our midst, we can now risk anything. Then come the soundless flat trolleys to take us away. Bandages are stuck fast. We bellow like steers. So Joseph has this interesting case, right? The hospital declared him mentally unstable. So things that he does, he's not technically responsible for his actions. So, Paul smashes this glass to stop the nurses from praying. And Joseph takes the blame because they expect Joseph to do crazy things. And he can't be held responsible. So they can kind of do whatever they want, this guy Joseph. I mean, whether or not he's insane, we'll see. They probably diagnosed him with, early version of shell shock. There are 8 men in our room. Peter, a curly black-haired fellow, has the worst injury, a severe lung wound. Franz Wascher, no, I'm not saying that right, alongside him has a shot in the arm, which doesn't look too bad at first. But the third night he calls out to us, telling us to ring. He thinks he has a hemorrhage. I ring loudly. The night sister does not come. We have been making rather heavy demands on her during the night because we have all been freshly bandaged and so have a good deal of pain. One wants his leg placed so, another so, a third wants water, a fourth wants her to shake his pillow. In the end, the buxom body grumbled bad-temperedly and slammed the doors. Now, no doubt, she thinks it is something of the same sort, and so she is not coming. We wait. Then Fran says, ring again. I do so. Still, she's not put in an appearance. In our wing, there's only one night sister. Perhaps she's something to do in one of the other rooms. Fran, are you quite sure you're bleeding, I ask? Otherwise, we shall all be getting cursed again. The bandage is wet. Can't anybody make a light? That cannot be done either. The switch is by the door, and none of us can stand up. I hold my thumb against the button of the bell till it becomes numb. Perhaps the sister has fallen asleep. They certainly have a great deal to do, and they're all overworked day after day. And added to that is the everlasting praying. Should we smash a bottle? Asks Joseph Haymaker with the shooting license. She wouldn't hear that any more than the bell. At last the door opens. The old lady appears, mumbling. When she perceives Fran's trouble, she begins to bustle and say, Why did not somebody say I was wanted? We did ring, and none of us here can walk. He has been bleeding badly, and she binds him up. In the morning we look at his face. It has become sharp and yellow, whereas the evening before he looked almost healthy. Now his sister comes oftener. Sometimes there are Red Cross voluntary aid sisters. They are pleasant, but often rather unskilled. They frequently give us pain when we're making our beds, and then they are so frightened that they hurt us still more. The nuns are more reliable. I know how they must take hold of us, but we would be better pleased if they were somewhat more cheerful. A few of them have real spirit. They are superb. There is no one but would do anything for Sister Libertine, this marvelous sister who spreads good cheer throughout the whole wing, even when she can only be seen in the distance. There are others like her. We'd go through fire for her. A man could not really complain. Here he is being treated by the nuns exactly like a civilian. Just to think of a garrison hospital gives one the creeps. Franz Watcher does not regain his strength. One day he's taken away and does not come back. Joseph Haymaker knows all about it. We shan't see him again. They put him in the dead room. What do you mean dead room? Asked Crop. Well, dying room. What is that then? A little room at the corner of the building. Whoever is about to kick the bucket, so kick the bucket's an expression for whoever's about to die, is put in there. There are 2 beds in it. It is generally called the dying room. What do they do that for? They don't have so much work to do afterwards. It is more convenient too, because it lies right beside the lift to the mortuary. Perhaps they do it for the sake of the others also, so that no one in the ward dies in sympathy, and they can look after him better too if he is by himself. But what about him? Joseph shrugged his shoulders. Usually he doesn't take much notice anymore. Does everybody know about it then? Anyone who has been here long enough knows, of course. So, right, when they take these people who are dying or about to die, they bring them to the dying room, which is conveniently next to where they put all the dead bodies. So people don't want to go there because when they go there, apparently you don't come back. In the afternoon, Franz Watcher's bed has a fresh occupant. A couple of days later, they take the new man away too. Joseph makes a significant glance. We see many come and go. Often relatives sit by the beds and weep or talk softly and awkwardly. One old woman will not go away, but she cannot stay there the whole night through. Next morning she comes very early, but not early enough, for when she goes up to the bed, someone else is in it already. She has to go to the mortuary. It's the apples that she has brought with her she gives to us. Mortuary, oh my god. And then little Peter begins to get worse. His temperature chart looks bad, and one day the flat trolley stands beside his bed. Where to, he asks. To the bandaging ward. He is lifted out. The sister makes a mistake of removing his tunic from the hook and putting it on the trolley too, so that she should not have to make 2 journeys. Peter understands immediately and tries to roll off the trolley. I'm stopping here. They push him back. He cries out feebly with his shattered lung. I won't go to the dining room. We're going to the bandaging ward. What do you want my tunic for? He can speak no more. Horace, agitated, he whispers, stopping here. They do not answer but wheel him out. At the door he tries to raise himself up. His black curly head sways, his eyes are full of tears. I will come back again, he cries. The door shuts. We're all excited, but we say nothing. At last Joseph says, many a man has said that. Once a man is in there, he never comes through. I am operated on and vomit for 2 days. My bones will not grow together, so the surgeon's secretary says. Another fellows have grown crooked. His are broken again. It is damnable. Among our new arrivals, there are 2 young soldiers with flat feet. The chief surgeon discovers them on his rounds and is overjoyed. We'll soon put that right, he tells them. We will just do a small operation and they will have perfectly round feet. Enter them down, sister. As soon as he's gone, Joseph, who knows everything, warns them. Don't you let them operate on you. There is a special scientific stunt of the old boy's. He was absolutely crazy whenever he could get hold of anyone to do it on. He operates on you for flat feet, and there's no mistake, and you don't have them anymore. You have club feet instead and have to walk all the rest of your life on sticks. What should a man do then? Asks one of them. Say no. You are here to be cured of your wound, not your flat feet. Do you have any trouble with them in the field? No? Well, there you are. At present you can still walk, but if once the old boy gets you under the knife, you'll be crippled. But he wants his little dogs to experiment with, so the war is a glorious time for him, as it is for all the surgeons. You take a look down below at the staff. There are a dozen fellows hobbling around that he's operated on. A lot of them have been here all the time since 1914, 1915. Not a single one of them can walk better than he could before. Almost all of them worse, and most of them only with plaster legs. Every 6 months he catches them again and breaks their bones afresh, and every time is going to be the successful one. You take my word, he won't dare do it if you say no. Commands one of the 2 warily. Better your feet than your brain box. There's no telling what you'll get if you go back out there again. They can do with me just as they please, so as long as they get back home. Better to have a club foot than be dead. The other, a young fellow like ourselves, won't have it done. Next morning, the old man has the 2 hauled up and lectures and jaws at them so long that in the end they consent. What else could they do? They are mere privates, and he is a big bug. They are brought back, chloroformed, and plastered. So it's this interesting thing, right? These surgeons are supposed to be helping people and treating your wounds, but it's also, according to Joseph, right? These surgeons also got to experiment and try procedures that they would not be able to try in peacetime. So you have this one surgeon in the hospital who says he can cure flat feet, which means you don't have a bridge on your foot. Your foot's literally flat. And, people are going in there for, like, a shot shoulder, and he's like, well, I'll cure your feet. Every time he puts these people under surgery, they can't walk again. So it's like this irony, right? The hospitals are supposed to be there to help you, to cure you, and make you feel better. And, like, that's not what's happening at this hospital. It's going badly with Albert. They have taken him and amputated his leg. The whole leg has been taken off from the thigh. Now he will hardly speak anymore. Once he says he will shoot himself the first time he can get a hold of his revolver again. Right, so Albert would rather die than be a cripple. Right, it's that depression that first sets in. A new convoy arrives. Our room gets 2 blind men. One of them is a very youthful musician. Sisters never have a knife with them when they feed him. He has already snatched one from a sister. But in spite of this caution, there is an incident. In the evening, while he's being fed, the sister is called away and leaves the plate with the fork on the table. He gropes with the fork, seizes it, and drives it with all his force against his heart. He snatches up his shoe and strikes it against the handle as hard as he can. We call for help, and 3 men are necessary to take the fork away from him. The blunt prongs had already penetrated deep. He abuses this all night so that no one can go to sleep. In the morning, he has lockjaw. Again, beds are empty. Day after day goes by with pained fear, groans, and death gurgles. Even the death room is no use anymore. It is too small. Fellows die during the night in our room. They go even faster than the sisters can keep up with them. But one day the door flies open, the flat trolley rolls in, and there on the stretcher, pale, thin, upright, and triumphant, with a shaggy head of curls, sits Peter. Remember the kid that they thought was going to the death room? He comes back. Mr. Libertine, with beaming looks, pushes him over to his former bed. He is back from the dining room. We have long supposed him dead. He looks around. What do you say now? Joseph has to admit that this is the first time he has ever known of such a thing. Gradually, a few of us are allowed to get up, and I am given crutches to hobble around on, but I do not make much use of them. I cannot bear Albert's gaze as I move about the room. His eyes always follow me with such a strange look, so I sometimes escape to the corridor. There I can move about more freely. On the next floor below are the abdominal and spine cases, head wounds, and double amputations. On the right side of the wing are the jaw wounds, wounds in the joints, wounds in the kidneys, wounds in the testicles, wounds in the intestines. Here a man realizes for the first time in how many places a man can get hit. 2 fellows die of tetanus. Their skin turns pale, their limbs stiffen, at last only their eyes lift stubbornly. Many of the wounded have their shattered limbs hanging free in the air from a gallows. Underneath the wound, a basin is placed into which drips the pus. Every 2 or 3 hours, the vessel is emptied. Other men lie in stretching bandages with heavy weights hanging from the end of the bed. I see intestine wounds that are constantly full of excreta. The surgeon's clerk shows me x-ray photographs of completely smashed hip bones, knees, and shoulders. A man cannot realize that above such shattered bodies there are still human faces in which life goes its daily round. This is not only one hospital, one single station. There are hundreds of thousands in Germany, hundreds of thousands in France, hundreds of thousands in Russia. How senseless is everything that can ever be written, done, or thought when such things are possible? It must all be lies and of no account when the culture of 1,000 years could not prevent this stream of blood being poured out, these torture chambers in their hundreds of thousands. A hospital alone shows what war is. So it's a symbolic thing, right? What the hospital really stands for. What does it really show about war? I am young. I'm 20 years old. But I know nothing of life but despair, death, fear, and fatuous superficiality cast over an abyss of sorrow. I see how peoples are set against one another in silence, unknowingly, foolishly, obediently, innocently slay one another. I see that the keenest brains of the world invent weapons and words to make it yet more refined and enduring. And all the men of my age, here and over there, throughout the whole world, see these things. All my generation is experiencing these things with me. What would our fathers do if we suddenly stood up and came before them and proffered our account? What do they expect of us if a time ever comes when the war is over? Through the years, our business has been killing. It was our first calling in life. Our knowledge of life is limited to death. What will happen afterwards? How much help will come out of us? The oldest man in our room is Lewandowski. I didn't say it, Lewandowski. He is 40 and has already lain 10 months in the hospital with a severe abdominal wound. Just in the last few weeks, he has improved sufficiently to be able to hobble about doubled up. Some days past, he has been in great excitement. His wife has written to him from the little home in Poland where she lives, telling him that she has saved up enough money to pay for the fare and is coming to see him. She's already on the way and it may arrive any day. Lewandowski has lost his appetite. He even gives away red cabbage and sausage after he's had a couple mouthfuls. He goes around the room perpetually with the letter. Everyone has already read it a dozen times. The postmarks have been examined, heaven knows how often. The address is hardly legible any longer for spots of grease and thumb marks. In the end, what is sure to happen happens. Lewandowski develops a fever and has to go back to bed. He has not seen his wife for 2 years. In the meantime, she has given birth to a child whom she is bringing with her. Something else occupies Lewandowski's thoughts. He had hoped to get permission to go out when his old woman came. For obviously, seeing is all very well, but when a man gets his wife again after such a long time, if at all possible, a man wants something else besides. Lewandowski has discussed it all with us at great length. In the army, there are no secrets about such things. What's more, nobody finds anything objectionable in it. Those of us who are already able to go out have told them of a couple of very good spots in town, parks and squares where he would not be disturbed. One of us even knows of a little room. What is the use? There, Lewandowski lies in bed with his troubles. Life holds no more joy for him if he has to forego this affair. We console him and promise to get over the difficulty somehow or other. Talking about sex, right? Hasn't seen his wife in 2 years. He wants it. Next afternoon, his wife appears, a tall little woman with anxious, quick eyes like a bird, and a sort of black, crinkly mantilla with ribbons. Heaven knows where she inherited the thing. She murmurs something softly and stands shyly in the doorway. It terrifies her that there are 6 of us men present. Well, Marja, says Lewandowski, and gulps dangerously with his Adam's apple. You can come in all right. They won't hurt you. She goes round and proffers each of us her hand. Then she produces a child, which in the intervals has done something in its napkin. From a large handbag embroidered with beads, she takes out a clean one and makes the child fresh and presentable. This dispels her first embarrassment, and she begins to talk. Lewandowski is very fidgety. Every now and then he squints across at us most unhappily with his round goggle eyes. The time is favorable. The doctor's visit is over. At the most, one of the sisters might come in. So one of us goes out to prospect. He comes back and nods. "No soul to be seen. Now's your chance, Johann," said 2. The 2 speak together in an undertone. The woman turns a little red and looks embarrassed. We grin good-naturedly and make up poo-pooing gestures. What does it matter? The devil take all conventions. They were made for some other times. Here lies the carpenter, Johann Lewandowski, a shoulder shot to a cripple, and there is his wife, who knows when he will see her again. He wants to have her, and he should have her good. Two men stand at the door to forestall his sisters and keep them occupied if they chance to come along. They agree to stand guard for a quarter of an hour or thereabouts. Lewandowski can only lie on his side, so one of us props a couple of pillows against his side. Albert gets the child to hold. We all turn around a bit. The black mantilla disappears into the bedclothes. Make a great clatter and play scat noisily. All goes well. Hold the club solo with 4 jacks, which nearly goes around. In the process, we almost forget Lewandowski. After a while, the child begins to squall, although Albert, in desperation, rocks it to and fro. There is a bit of creaking and rustling. As we look up casually, we see that the child has a bottle in its mouth and is back again with its mother. The business is over. We now feel ourselves like one big family. The woman is happy, and Lewandowski lies there sweating and beaming. Right? So it's this crazy thing that this couple hasn't seen each other in a really long time, finally sees each other, and all the men kind of help them reunite. And it's kind of crazy, right? This is happening in a hospital. And they're all in on it. He unpacks the embroidered handbag, and some good sausages come to light. Lewandowski takes up the knife with a flourish and saws the meat into slices. With a handsome gesture, he waves toward us, and the woman goes from one to the other and smiles at us and hands round the sausage. She now looks quite handsome. We call her mother. She is pleased and shakes up her pillows for us. After a few weeks, I have to go each morning to the massage department. There my leg is harnessed up and made to move. The arm is healed long since. Few convoys arrive from the line. The bandages are no longer made of cloth, but of white crepe paper. Rag bandages have become scarce at the front. Albert's stub here heals well. The wound is almost closed. In a few weeks, he should go off to an institute for artificial limbs. He continues not to talk much and is much more solemn than formerly. He often breaks off in his speech and stares in front of him. If he were not here with us, he would have shot himself long ago. Now he's over the worst of it, and he often looks on when we play scat. I get convalescent leave. Mother does not want to let me go away. She is feeble. It is all much worse than it was last time. And I recall to my regiment and return once more to the line. So he gets hurt, he heals, he's allowed to go home for literally a couple of days, and has to go back to the front line. Parting from my friend Albert Kropp was very hard, but a man gets used to that sort of thing in the army. End of chapter 10. Just 2 left.